Welcome back. 1 year later.
1 year later.
And
hey guys,
months.
do you remember when we had a show?
Do you guys remember when we actually uploaded? That was something. Oh, excuse me. Wouldn't be a podcast about a burp in there, I guess. Huh?
Yeah.
So I thought about something the other day. I was playing a particular game, which we'll get to in a moment. But I messaged Evan and I said, we haven't done one of these episodes in a while. And I think I really want to talk about these games. And the games in particular that I'm talking about are games that I hold dear to my heart, and they're is in my top 10 of all time. Is the Batman Arkham series. And the reasoning I want to talk about that is because I want to express to you guys what made those games what they are, and what it did for licensed games in particularly too. So, for instance, the Spider-Man games and possibly the Marvel Avengers game, even though that's pretty bad and we don't want to talk about that. But I think the easiest way I could start out by saying is what it meant to me as a guy growing up in high school and having an Xbox 360.
Yeah.
And I remember in 2000 and
Was it 8? Was it 8 or 9 that
I
it came out?
I think it was 9.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think it was 9 because I remember if you pre-ordered on PS3, you got the Joker as a playable character for some of the missions. But because I had a 360, I did not get the Joker, and they never put the Joker for availability on 360 either.
Lame.
Which I don't know why they would ever have done that, but hey, I'm not the market.
Super exclusivity, I guess.
Yeah, but at the same time, you couldn't use them in story mode. It was strictly for challenges. But I want to talk about the stories for each one and what makes them so different and what they mean to me and possibly other superhero fans of Batman and just superheroes in general, and how this was a very big deal for licensed games. And me and you were kind of talking about it in the car on the way over. But it was a huge deal for licensed games. It was one of the first. I remember when I had Game Informer magazines at the time. Batman Arkham City, which is the second installment, got a 10 out of 10. It got the Platinum Award.
Oh, wow.
That's how important that game series is to not just super. I could go on a limb and say it's not just a big deal for Batman games. It's a big deal for superhero games. And it's a big deal for gaming in general because it shows that you can already make something that already has good substance, make it even greater.
It sort of transcended. I hope you don't mind if I cut in.
No,
But,
sure.
it sort of transcended, I guess. You know how people will say, "Oh, this was decent for a licensed game," but it sort of went above that. The people are just this is just a good game.
Well, that's the thing too. There's a lot of tidbits and secrets in the game too, right? So in the first game, Arkham Asylum, you run into what looks like a green question mark, and it's on a trophy. It's a symbol for the Riddler trophy. And the Riddler actually communicates with you in your telecom or your little headset in your bat cowl, and he's like, "Hey man, look, I put riddles around the map. Solve them all. I'll let you capture me. If not, sucks to be you." And so you'll actually have to use your cowl in this thing called detective mode, and you'll have to start looking around the room and kind of start figuring out, okay, what is the riddle, what is the answer? And 9 times out of 10, it's usually a reference to something of Batman's past, or a villain, or a specific character, like Vicky Vale or Jack Ryder. For those that don't know, there's a very famous TV reporters in the Gotham Batman universe. But it's cool because they're little tidbits. They're not just out in the open and you can just do it and boom, it's there.
Right.
You actually have to go and look and be a detective and think about it. And that's his nickname, is World's Greatest Detective. And the mode you have to use is called detective mode. So sometimes you'll have to scan all right, there's been a crime scene here. Okay, let me scan my let me use my scanner, my evidence scanner, and let me see if I can pinpoint some things together. So for instance, I'll give a prime example of when an evidence scanner is used. In the second installment, Arkham City, one of the first encounters that you face is Two-Face. He's in a courthouse, and he has Catwoman tied up upside down right above an acid pool. So, Batman and Catwoman's relationship already is kind of it's on the fence. 9 times out of 10, Batman brings her in, but there's that one occasion where Batman actually thinks there's some good in her, so he saves her. This is one of the moments where he thinks she's being good and can be saved or whatever.
Right.
So, yada, you get saved. They're talking, and there's this little like sniper dot on Catwoman's face, and Batman notices it within like a split second and like ducks her out of the way.
Ooh.
So the cutscene passes, and Batman's like, I should use my evidence scanner to figure out where the bullet's trajectory came from. So you'll pop into detective mode, and it goes into like this first person mode, and it's like it almost looks like an X-ray kind of like thermal X-ray type thing. It's hard to explain. You'll have to play them one day and get an idea for it. But so on the ground, you'll see like where a bullet impact mark looks. So you'll hover over it, you'll hold your confirm button or your A or X button, whatever, and you'll scan it, and then there'll be a percentage on the top left that says like, hey, 33% of crime scene scanned. So there's like 2 more pieces you need to go scan. So, and it'll be like, so you scan it, but it's cool because when you do that, it then shows the pieces of the trajectory of the bullet showing. Eventually, you find all the pieces, and it leads to the church, and you find out the Joker was behind the shot or whatever, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But it's super cool because it still gives you, like, that detective feel. It isn't just like, all right, he's going to just kick ass the entire game. Like, no, dude, like, you actually got to use your brain a little bit.
Yeah.
And that was really nifty. I liked also how inclusive it is to not just Batman, but it's very inclusive to, like, the villains as well.
Right.
It's very diverse. And I think a good example of the game being diverse with its villains is the most recent game, which is Arkham Knight. When you beat the game, there is this thing called the Most Wanted, and there are side missions. Every Batman game has like a side, well, besides the first game, unless you count the Riddler stuff, every game had like every game had like side missions to them. And they've had like really uniqueness to them. There was like a very, it felt very original. Like, no mission felt the same. Like, I didn't feel like, okay, I just took down Penguin by beating up 20 freaking dudes. Alright, now I'm gonna go face to face and beat up 20 freaking dudes. Like, nah, each time it was different. So, like, yeah, I go and fight Penguin, beat up 20 dudes, knock them unconscious. Go and fight Two-Face, oh, shoot, I gotta be stealthy here because they all have guns and I can't fight them head on. And that's another thing. It wasn't just about a beat 'em up. Like, that wasn't the whole point. Like, you still had to be silent. You still had there was like a stealth aspect to it too.
Yeah.
It incorporated so many other things into one game that it allowed it to branch out into other genres that it didn't even know it was trying to branch out into. Like, you couldn't just categorize it as an action game because there was more to it than just action. Like, you could argue, and I'm not saying it's right, you could argue that it had RPG elements. Am I saying it's an RPG?
No.
Absolutely not. But there was a leveling up system. What does every RPG game have?
A leveling up system.
So you could argue that. You could argue it was a freaking stealth game.
Yeah, espionage.
An espionage game. Was it? Absolutely not. But you could argue it.
Right.
Because there were so many factors to it.
Yeah.
What I also liked was that it wasn't just including the main, like, common Batman villains as, like, its main villains, right? So, like, it wasn't every game I was fighting the Penguin. Every game I was fighting the Joker. Every game I was fighting
Harley Quinn. Like, there were a lot of, like, curveball villains in that series. And a big one that I could point out that sticks out to me that I remember is Solomon Grundy. Clayface is another one. Killer Croc. Even though I consider Killer Croc kind of common, it's also not common to see him because he's not as popular as, say, like the Joker or Two-Face
or the Penguin or Mr. Freeze, Poison Ivy. But the game is also like, it fits like that dark, like, kind of tone to Batman as well. So, like, it's not like a happy good feel like type game. Like, it's not like if you were to boot up like alright, say we boot up like what's a good, like, comparison? Spider-Man. Like, Spider-Man has, like, a lot of bright colors, a lot of happy colors to it. It's very vibrant. You play these games, it's very dark. It's, like, very rural and rugged. And that's kind of what Batman's all about, right? Yeah. It's the Dark Knight. Like, he fights at night. That's what he does. He's a protector of Gotham. And he's, that's what he's known for. It's what he is. So, when you boot up the game, instantly you get that vibe already. You can just tell from just how that is. And, I still think, like, one of the best villains that they've portrayed in that game was probably Scarecrow. I think they portrayed Scarecrow very, very well. Between just how maniacal he is and how far he's really willing to go to get his point across. And by the same extent, I could say the Joker as well. But at the same time, it's the Joker. You have to take it to that extent because that's his character.
Yeah.
But, like, Scarecrow, like, no one really thinks that the guy's really gonna, like, gas the whole city, but he fucking does.
Yeah.
At one point, he really does, and it's almost unbelievable. The only complaint that I will give, even though as much as I love these games, I have to give it a complaint. After a while, it becomes very repetitive, and I'll explain a little bit better. So there's 3 types of gameplay in the Batman games. There's your fighting, your stealth, and then there's like your detective work. Outside of that, there's like traveling to like the different areas, but like, you know, that's with any game. You have to travel.
Yeah.
It's very rare that you have a game where you don't travel, unless you're playing like a puzzle game.
Yeah.
So I don't really consider that part of it. After a while, it becomes very like, it's like you kind of know what to expect at some points. Especially if you play them as many times as I have. Like, you kind of start realizing like the flaws that come with the game. But like, to say that like that's really the only flaw, I really can't like be mad about that.
Right. Yeah.
And another thing too is like that game is very for being a $60 game. It's very fleshed out. There's, even though they added DLC in some of the games, there was still a lot of content to still do even before DLC got added. So it's not like the game was a cash grab for your money to go and do like more missions or whatever.
Yeah.
They were just there in case if you actually did everything. And, you know, if you did, congrats to you, because I wasn't finding every Riddler trophy. I wasn't solving every riddle. Y'all out of your fucking minds to think I'm doing that.
Right.
But people would do that. Like, I remember watching a dude speedrun 100%. Like, that means all riddles, all trophies, all the side missions, and he did it in like 4 hours or something like that. Oh. And like, cool. Like, you actually can dedicate that kind of time. I can't, because 1, I'm not big brain enough to solve half them riddles. 2, they're surprisingly, the more that you solve, the more like difficult they become, because you start getting more gadgets, you can start doing more of the stuff. So like, as you progress through the game, you get access to more gadgets, and that's another thing too. It wasn't just batarangs and Batclaw, right? You had like different gadgets. Like there was like a freeze grenade you could throw.
Right.
There was like a electrostatic gun. I remember that you could shoot. It was like you shot like a little bolt of electricity. You could use it to like power up generators or shock people. There was explosive gel.
Nice.
There was a line launcher, so like you could throw like a zip line out and you could like hang on the zip line itself. That was really cool. The gliding in it felt very fluid. It didn't feel like it was hard to control at all. It almost felt like it felt natural.
Right, yeah.
Which was nice, because that was another thing that I was like, oh, that's, feels really good. The boss battles, when it came time for boss battles, every boss battle felt unique. There was a boss battle that I felt was, like, too much or too little. The only boss battle I feel that was like that was probably, if I had to take a guess, I have to say Mr. Freeze in Arkham City, and the only reason I say that is because it was a strictly stealth battle, and for every but what's made it unique about that one was for every different type of way that you took him down, he would freeze off that section.
Ooh.
So you couldn't do it again. So you had to come up with a new way to take him down, and if you didn't, then you'd be like, oh, well, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So, and there's a lot of ways. If you've ever played the games, then you would know that there's like 25 different ways to take people down. There's like, you could do one for the grates, you could do one for your gadgets like your explosive gel, one for the bat claw, one from just going behind them, one of just like dropping down from a ceiling. Like, there's so many. It's ridiculous, but it's cool because it adds variety. It's not just the same stale, and that's another thing. It gave the combat variety. It gave your stealth missions variety. So all that didn't feel stale, but it felt stale in the sense of like you just keep doing those same types of things over and over again, rather than like me sitting in a room waiting for a dude to jump the corner so I could start punching them and then taking them out or whatever. Like, I had to think like, all right, well, if I throw a batarang here, it's going to alert somebody, and I only get a time frame, a window frame of seconds before they find said person or they find me. So it's like, yeah, you gotta think a little bit, and that's what made that fun. And I said this to you in the car, and I think you would agree, even though you've never played them, but I think you've seen me play them like once or twice.
Yeah.
those types of games, I think, are what superhero games should aspire to be like. Not necessarily be, but be like. And here, I'll explain that a little bit more as well. So, like, each of those Batman games has their own, like, uniqueness to them. Nothing, like, yes, they all are the same as far as, like, the topic and maybe some of the combat. But outside of that, each game still felt unique. Like, Arkham Asylum still felt like you were in an asylum. You weren't, like, trying to escape it. You were just trying to get the Joker. Arkham City had this, like, whole thing where, like, hey, this guy actually knows your real identity, and if it gets out, you're a dead man. Mm-hmm. And then Arkham Origins, which is before Asylum in the chronological order, gives you, like, the premise of, like, who the Joker was and why Batman is the way that he is with the Joker. And it was very cool to, like, see that and how Harley Quinn became, like, a real thing.
Yeah.
And then Arkham Knight is, like, the end of Batman. Like, that's it. Like, this is how it is, and there's no real way around it. So, I think when Warner Brothers got together with Rocksteady, which is the company that developed the Batman games, I think that they came to them with, like, properties, and they were like, all right, well, we want to incorporate these types of properties. And they said, cool, can we also add this? I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers probably gave them the thumbs up because of how many, if you've played them, you've seen how many references there are, you've seen how many, like, little pokes at things have been mentioned and stuff like that. And, like, and what's real cool, too, is, like, once you start unlocking, like, those characters, like, little stories and stuff, you can, like, view, like, their bio, like, what's their blood type, like, how old are they, when was their first appearance in the DC universe.
I always like things like that.
Which is cool, because a lot of the characters, especially when I first started playing them, I didn't know jack shit about, like, half these characters. Like, Cash, like, I didn't know anything about Cash. I knew very little of Clayface at the time. I knew very little of Solomon Grundy. I knew very little of, believe it or not, I knew very little of Scarecrow. I know, like, who he was and, like, what he was, but I didn't know, like, how he came to be and, like, you know, when his first appearance was and stuff like that. So, to be able to see that, if you really want to, like, especially if they're, like, your favorite characters, too.
Yeah.
You kind of get to know, like, all right, well, I need to be on the lookout for this, especially if you're, like, a comic collector or something, man. That was kind of cool to, like, learn and shit. And then, like, when they finally started incorporating, like, the Batmobile in the last game, while it was very Batmobile heavy, it still felt fun. It didn't feel like it was, overwhelming at times. It had its own, like, the driving for it felt good. The weapons for it felt balanced. Nothing felt like it was overpowered. Everything was manageable. It was nice. And then to be able to just branch out of, like, an Arkham zone of a game and going straight into Gotham City and Night was very, very cool to me as well, because I said this, like, years before Arkham Knight came out. I was like, I want an Arkham game where I can explore Gotham City and not just Arkham Asylum or an Arkham Zone or whatever. And we got that, and it was actually ended up being, like, one of the best games I had played that year. And I will say I loved the villain for it. I won't spoil it for people who haven't played it. But the Arkham Knight villain itself was very nice. I think Scarecrow was a very nice villain to have as well, because it was like two big bad boys going to try and kill Batman, or whatever, and they pretty much almost succeeded. It had Batman, you know, Batman not did what he did.
Yeah, that would have been it.
It would have been it. It would have absolutely been it. So, I mean, Evan, I've told you countless times I think you should play them, even though you're not really, like, a superhero guy. I think
I could check them out. Yeah,
it's if you go into it with the mindset that, like, it's not a superhero game, I think you can enjoy it a little bit more, because, like I said, it still tries to branch out to, like, being outside of a superhero game. And on top of that, it's just, like I said, they're just very unique. They're not that you can't really compare them to another game like how they are, because of how different they bring stuff to the table.
Yeah. Are they on Steam?
They are on Steam.
Good.
I know at one point, though, Arkham Knight had trouble running on Steam, on, like, high-end computers, but I think they patched that.
Okay, good.
So it's good now, because I know it's been, like, 4 years since that game's been out, so I know they definitely patched it by now. But yeah, and they're usually, too, if you ever find, like, Warner Brother Publishing sales, usually they're on sale, too, and I've seen Arkham Knight be as low as $5.
Ooh.
So you can probably find the whole series for probably $20 or less.
Yeah.
And that's with DLC, because I know if you get the Game of the Year editions
for,
like Arkham City, Game of the Year edition has all the DLC with it. That includes costumes, the challenge packs, extra story stuff, And then I think Arkham Knight's the same way. I think it has all the costumes, all the extra story. And that's the other thing, too, is, like, when they did the DLC, it wasn't just, like, simple stuff. Like, they really branched out, like, made it, like, really worth you buying the DLC. Because I remember when I bought the Knight DLC, the Arkham Knight DLC, they had a DLC for Nightwing, they had a DLC for Robin, Catwoman, Azazel, which is a character I'd never heard of, but I love to death now. It's like Catwoman, I think, right? That's
yeah.
Harley Quinn, and a DLC for Harley Quinn, so you could play as Harley Quinn, which I thought was really cool. They had DLC for Red Hood, which is a character that I fucking am in love with to this day. I mean, it's a Batman character that gets to use guns and kills people, and Batman's just like, I can't really stop you because you'll shoot me. So, but yeah, because technically Red Hood is Bruce Wayne's like legitimate son, Damian.
Yeah.
So that was really cool to me. But like it's a ride that like when you play them, you definitely can feel like that sense of uniqueness, and that's the big thing. Like I said, they're just very unique. To this day, no matter what game has came out, I can't, besides Spider-Man, I cannot compare them to a game that was made before them because that's how unique they are.
Ooh.
And that's why I like them so much, is because I can go back and they have, and that's another thing, there's so much replay value. Even when you play a full time the first time, you want to go back and do it because there's so many different ways of doing things.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so fucking fun, man. I could sit here and talk about this forever, but like everything that I have thrown at the table and stuff like that, I mean, I've been, it's all 100% true. Like, I wouldn't want to change what I've said.
But you also want people to experience it for themselves.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, too. Like I said, you can probably find that series now for under $20 on Steam. Maybe even under $20 on, like, your Xbox or your PS4 or PS5, whatever. Because I know they put out a Arkham Collection, I think, at one point. And
I think I remember that, seeing it.
I know they put Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. I don't know if they put Origins on it. But I know they put those two on. Those are two of the big ones. I think, honestly, deadass, you could probably go without playing Origins. I think Origins is the weakest of them. And the reason I say that is because it doesn't feel like a... It's not that it doesn't feel like a Batman game. It's just not... I don't know. Something happened with Origins. I think either the developer changed or the people who were publishing it changed. Something happened there because I remember looking at the credits, like the main credits. I remember seeing a different company there, and I think that's what happened. On top of that, they changed the voice actor for Batman at the time for that game, but they have it for all the others, so I don't understand why that is as well. I thought that was super weird.
Question. So you said Origins, right?
Origins, correct.
Describe Batman's voice in that.
It's more gritty, if that makes sense. It's so the person that does it for Asylum and City and Night is a guy who also did it for the animated show back in the 90s. I can't remember. I think it's Kevin Conroy, something like that. I can't remember. However, I remember booting up Origins and hearing the voice, and it's like more of like a grittier. It's like Black Mask. It's like, what the fuck is this guy's voice? This is not the Batman that I know. Where is bring back my Batman?
You want to know my favorite Batman quote from Batman Arkham Origins?
Go ahead.
I like the part where he says, "No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me." And the reason I said that is because I just looked it up. In Origins, Batman is voiced by Roger Craig Smith, who is Sonic the Hedgehog.
Huh. That makes a lot of sense. So that's why it sounds so different. So then who voices it for the others? Was it Kevin?
Kevin Conroy.
Okay, so I was right. Okay. So that threw me for a loop, and then I think the villain selection, like the whole premise is like, hey, so like you're a wanted man. First person that kills you gets $1 million. And it's like the 12 most famous assassins in the world. Half of them you don't even fight.
Oh, lame.
The other half you do fight is like the one just gets instantly is just killed off.
Oh.
And then the other one, like the big fight, the Deathstroke fight, which they had like previewed and showed you in like all the trailers, they throw that at the beginning of you, and that's all there is to it. So your big marketing point, like you threw out the window.
Yeah.
And it's like, why did I buy this game?
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, it was fun. It had its moments, but I think the most enjoyable game of them all is City and Night. Asylum is good because it gives you a good introduction to the game. So if you don't skip out on Asylum, play them all, like I said, you could probably skip Origins, but I understand if you want to play it because of it being part of the series. But I could sit here and tell you could probably skip Origins and be okay, because realistically speaking, it's a prequel to Asylum, and if you've already played Asylum, you kind of have an idea of what already happened in Origins. So there's no real point to you playing Origins when you played Asylum, if that makes sense. Because it explains stuff that happened in Origins and Asylum. And I know that sounds weird because Origins came out after Asylum.
Yeah.
But it's supposed to be the prequel to...
It's like the Devil May Cry thing, how it goes in the order of like 2, 4, 1, 3, 5.
It's like a crazy order, and it makes no sense. And
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just how it is. But, like I said, just give it a try, guys. I mean, seriously, you have no idea what kind of fun you can have with those games, man. To this day, I still can't believe how fun those games are. And it's been over 10 years now since that first one came out, and I still have a ball with them. And that's how good their longevity is, man. You can play them 10 years later, and they're still super fun.
Absolutely. Is that it?
I think that's pretty much it. This has been... I know we haven't been here in a while, and I'm sure we'll give you guys some kind of life update of what's been going on in a later time, and God knows when that will be, because our consistency is some dog shit.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I don't really have anything else to say. Like I said, if you guys find it on Steam or Epic or GOG Galaxy or G2A, whatever, play them. You will have a good time, I promise. I would not recommend these games if I really didn't think you guys wouldn't have a good time. I think... Oh, and that's... Before we go, one other thing I should mention. They have a photo mode because of how good the animation and graphic work is.
Yeah.
So you can actually pause in the middle of your fights and take like a photo of like a certain angle of like you punching a thug in the face.
Nice.
And you can like give it like saturation, It's really nice. You can really just like...
Amazing.
Yeah, you can really like play around with like how everything looks and stuff like that. So, yeah, outside of that, that's really it. So I hope you guys get a chance to play it. If you do, let me know in the comments. If you've played them before, let me know what you guys thought.
Share your experiences.
Share your experiences. I know, as a superhero fan, like I said, it meant a lot to me, and it actually felt good and didn't feel like a cash grab. So that's always nice. And I think that's everything. So this is Luke.
This is Evan.
And we're signing off.
See ya.